I stared at the hospital ceiling, feeling the dull ache of pain creeping through my body. My name is Margaret, and I'm 45 years old. I should have been living a comfortable life, having recently inherited my father's $2 million family business, a legacy he built from the ground up with decades of hard work and dedication. But instead of celebrating this new chapter in my life, I found myself confined to a hospital bed, fighting a rare skin condition that had left my face covered in white blisters. Every time I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, I could barely recognize the woman staring back at me. The physical discomfort was intense, but the emotional turmoil was far worse. My husband, Victor, wasn't at my side to offer comfort or support. No, he hadn't shown up at the hospital to check on me throughout this ordeal. In fact, his concern was never about my health or well-being, it was about something entirely different, something that benefited him. And today was no exception. The door creaked open, and Victor stormed in, his face set in a grim expression. The moment I saw his eyes, I knew he wasn't there to be a loving husband. As he stood at the foot of my bed, his presence felt heavy, the air thick with tension. I could sense that this was not going to be a peaceful visit. "Margaret," he said, his voice edged with impatience, "we need to talk now." His tone made it clear that this was not a request. I swallowed hard, knowing that whatever he wanted, it wasn't good. A wave of anxiety washed over me, and I instinctively tightened my grip on the hospital bed's railing, bracing myself for what was to come. Victor's presence in the room felt suffocating. But as he glared at me, my mind drifted back to how it had all started. If you told me 10 years ago that my life would come to this, lying in a hospital bed while my husband tried to bully me into something, I would have laughed. Back then, Victor was everything I thought I wanted. I met him at a friend's party in Denver, where his confidence and charm drew me in like a moth to a flame. He was attentive, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in me, a successful woman working as a financial consultant. I had no idea that beneath that polished surface lay a manipulative man who saw my potential and my family's wealth as a golden ticket. Our whirlwind romance culminated in a wedding within a year. At the time, my father expressed his reservations about Victor, though he never said so outright. "Margaret," he once said gently, "you've built so much for yourself. Make sure he sees your worth for what it is, not what you have." I didn't take his words seriously. I was in love, and Victor seemed like the perfect partner. But that facade didn't last long. Shortly after we married, I started noticing small cracks in his behavior, his impatience when things didn't go his way, his tendency to criticize my decisions, and most of all, his reliance on me to financially support his never-ending schemes. My father's death 6 months ago was devastating. Not only had I lost the man who had always been my rock, but his passing also left me with the immense responsibility of running the family business, a thriving chain of restaurants that had been his pride and joy. My father had been meticulous, leaving everything in order and naming me the sole heir to his $20 million empire. It was his way of showing faith in my abilities, trusting me to carry on his legacy. But Victor didn't see it that way. From the moment he found out about the inheritance, his attitude shifted entirely. He wasn't grieving alongside me, he was scheming. He wanted control of the business, control of the money, and when I refused to hand it over, he became bitter, treating me less like a wife and more like an obstacle in his path to success. I had endured his emotional manipulation for years, but this time it felt different. His obsession with the business grew stronger every day, and I knew he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. That's why, when the door to my hospital room opened just minutes ago, I already knew what Victor had come for. Victor's impatient voice snapped me out of my thoughts. "Margaret, we need to finalize this transfer," he said, pulling a folder out of the briefcase he carried. His words were sharp, devoid of any care or concern. I stared at him, confused and angry. "Transfer what, Victor?" I asked, my voice hoarse from the medications and exhaustion. "The business, Margaret," he said coldly. "You've been dragging this on for months. It's time to stop being selfish and do what's best for this family. Sign the papers and transfer the ownership to me." I blinked, stunned by his audacity. There I was, lying in a hospital bed with my face covered in painful white blisters, and all he cared about was the business. "You're got to be kidding me," I said, my voice low but firm. This business was my father's legacy. He trusted me to run it, not you. Victor's eyes narrowed. "Don't give me that," he snapped. "You're lying here doing nothing while I'm the one trying to keep everything together. Do you know how hard it's been for me? You're in no condition to handle it right now." "I'm not signing anything," I said, my anger rising. "This isn't about the business. This is about you wanting control, and I won't let you take that away from me." His face twisted with frustration, and he took a step closer to my bed. "Margaret," he hissed, "stop being so stubborn. You can't even take care of yourself. What makes you think you can run a multi-million-dollar business?" I looked him straight in the eye, refusing to back down. "Because my father believed in me," I said. "And I'm not about to betray that trust just because you think you deserve it." Victor's jaw tightened, and I could see the rage bubbling beneath the surface. "You're making a big mistake," he said, his voice dangerously low. "You're going to regret this." Before I could react, he reached over and yanked the oxygen mask off my face. I gasped for air, my chest heaving as panic surged. Then, in one swift motion, he balled his fist and punched me square on the nose. Pain exploded through my face as I let out a muffled cry. My already sensitive skin felt like it was on fire, and I clutched my nose, feeling the blood trickle down. My vision blurred as tears welled up, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. "What is wrong with you?" I managed to say, my voice shaking. "How could you do this to me?" Victor leaned closer, his face inches from mine. "You brought this on yourself," he spat. "All you had to do was sign the damn papers." The door to the room suddenly burst open, and I heard a nurse's horrified voice. "What is going on here?" she demanded. A security guard followed close behind, his eyes immediately locking on Victor. "You need to step away from her right now," the guard said, his tone firm and commanding. Victor hesitated, his fists still clenched, but the guard didn't give him a chance to argue. He grabbed Victor by the arm and began pulling him away from the bed.
"You'll regret this, Margaret," Victor yelled as he was dragged out of the room. "This isn't over." The nurse rushed to my side, checking my injuries. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle but urgent. I nodded weakly, my hands trembling as I tried to hold back the tears. "Please," I whispered, "don't let him come back." The nurse placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "He won't. I'll make sure of it." As the door closed behind Victor, I felt a strange mix of fear and relief. My body ached, and my heart was shattered, but I knew one thing for certain: I couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change. The room felt suffocatingly quiet once Victor was removed. My breathing was shallow, my face throbbed in pain, and my mind raced as I tried to process what had just happened. The nurse stayed by my side, carefully cleaning the blood from my face and examining the bruises forming on my nose. "I've called the hospital administration," she said gently. "They're reporting this to the police. He's not going to get away with this." I nodded weakly, unable to form words. Every ounce of energy was drained from me, but I knew one thing for sure: this was the final straw. Victor had crossed a line I could never forgive. He wasn't just manipulative anymore, he was violent, and I couldn't let him continue to control or hurt me. A few hours later, my closest friend Emma arrived. Emma had been my rock ever since we met during college, and she had always been there for me, even when Victor tried to isolate me from everyone. When she walked in and saw my swollen nose and tear-streaked face, her expression darkened. "Margaret," she whispered, rushing to my side. "What did he do to you?" I bit my lip, holding back tears. "He came here demanding I sign over the business," I said quietly. When I refused, he took off my oxygen mask and punched me. Emma's face flushed with anger. "This is it," she said firmly. You're not dealing with him anymore. We're going to the police, and we're going to make sure he never comes near you again. Her words gave me a sense of relief but also guilt. For so long, I had tolerated Victor's behavior, hoping things would get better. Now, I realized that by staying silent, I had allowed his abuse to escalate. Emma wasted no time. She contacted the hospital staff and ensured that a detailed report of the incident was filed. The nurse who had witnessed the attack also agreed to provide a statement. "We won't let him intimidate you anymore," Emma said, squeezing my hand. "You're not alone in this." Over the next couple of days, I began to feel a small sense of control returning to my life. The hospital administration confirmed that they had submitted the incident to the local police, and I received a visit from an officer who took my statement. They assured me that Victor would be held accountable for his actions. It wasn't just about the physical pain he had caused me, it was about the years of manipulation, control, and emotional abuse that I had endured. For the first time, I was beginning to see a way out. A few days after the incident, I met with my lawyer, Sophia Reed, in her office. Sophia had helped me with the legal formalities of my father's estate after his passing, and she knew the intricacies of my situation better than anyone. When I explained what Victor had done in the hospital, her expression hardened. "Margaret, this isn't just domestic violence," she said firmly. "This is an outright attempt to manipulate you into giving up your inheritance. We have strong grounds for legal action against both his physical assault and his coercion regarding the business." Her words gave me a glimmer of hope. For years, Victor had stripped me of my confidence, but now, with Sophia's guidance, I felt like I was finally taking control. Sophia quickly got to work. We compiled everything we had, hospital records documenting the injuries Victor had caused, including the bruises and the damage to my sensitive skin condition, witness statements from the nurse and security guard who intervened during the assault, financial records from the family business showing that Victor had no claim or involvement in its management, and a copy of my father's will, which clearly stated that the $20 million business was left solely to me. Victor, as expected, didn't take this lightly. Over the next few days, he tried to contact me repeatedly, leaving voicemails filled with empty apologies and thinly veiled threats. "You're ruining everything, Margaret," one voicemail said. "If you think you can win this, you're wrong." Sophia advised me to ignore his calls. "Don't engage with him," she said. "Let the evidence speak for itself." The day of the court hearing arrived, and I walked into the courtroom feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. Sophia was by my side, her confidence steadying me as we took our seats. Victor was already there, sitting at the defense table with his lawyer. He looked nervous, but his usual smugness was still visible. Sophia began by laying out the case, starting with the hospital assault. She introduced the nurse and security guard as witnesses, who recounted the events in vivid detail. Their testimonies painted a clear picture of Victor's violent and manipulative behavior. Next, Sophia presented the medical records showing the injuries Victor had inflicted on me. Photos of my bruised nose and blistered face were displayed in court, leaving the gallery silent. Victor's lawyer tried to downplay the incident, arguing that he had acted out of frustration and hadn't intended to hurt me, but Sophia dismantled their arguments with precision. "This isn't just a moment of frustration," she said, her voice unwavering. "This is the culmination of years of manipulation and abuse, culminating in a physical assault against a vulnerable woman in a hospital bed." When Victor took the stand, his usual confidence faltered. He stumbled over his words, trying to justify his actions, but his attempts to shift the blame only made him look worse. "She's exaggerating," he said at one point. "I was trying to have a reasonable conversation about the business, and she blew it out of proportion." Sophia's cross-examination was relentless. "So you're saying that removing her oxygen mask and punching her in the nose was a reasonable conversation?" she asked pointedly. Victor had no answer, and the silence in the courtroom spoke volumes. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the judge delivered the verdict: Victor was found guilty of domestic violence and coercion. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay significant fines, including compensation for my medical expenses and damages for emotional distress. As the gavel struck, signaling the end of the case, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Justice had been served, and for the first time in years, I felt free. With the court case behind me, I finally had the space to focus on my recovery, both physically and emotionally. The days that followed felt surreal. For the first time in years, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. Wondering when Victor's next outburst would come, the looming shadow of his manipulation and control was gone, and I could finally breathe freely. The hospital staff provided excellent care for my skin condition, and with time, the blisters on my face began to heal. Though the process was slow and the pain lingered, I refused to let it break my spirit. My doctor encouraged me to focus on self-care, reminding me that healing wasn't just about physical recovery but also about emotional strength. Each day, I found myself growing stronger. I started journaling my thoughts, writing down everything I had endured, and it helped me process the years of pain Victor had caused. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to reclaim the confidence and independence he had tried to strip away. Once I was discharged from the hospital, I turned my attention to my father's legacy, the family business. Walking into the office for the first time after months of chaos was bittersweet. The memories of my father were everywhere, from the framed photos on the walls to the notes he had left in his meticulous handwriting. I gathered the employees for a meeting and reassured them that the business was in safe hands. This company was my father's dream, I told them, and I promised to honor his legacy by taking it to even greater heights. I poured my energy into the business, learning every detail and making strategic decisions to ensure its growth. With the support of my team, I felt more capable than ever. Every milestone, every success was a tribute to my father and a reminder to myself of how far I had come. As part of my fresh start, I decided to move out of the house Victor and I had shared. It was filled with too many bad memories, and I needed a space that felt like my own. I found a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood where I could focus on rebuilding my life without the weight of the past dragging me down. Decorating the new house became a therapeutic process. Each piece of furniture, every photo on the wall, felt like a declaration of my independence. It wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary, a symbol of the life I was creating for myself. One evening, as I sat in my new living room, I found myself scrolling through videos online. I realized how many people shared stories of resilience and survival, and it sparked an idea. What if I shared my story, not just the struggles but the strength it took to overcome them? With the encouragement of my lawyer, Sophia, and my close friend, Emma, I launched an online platform to share my journey. At first, it was just a blog where I wrote about my experiences, but soon I began creating videos, talking openly about surviving an abusive marriage, fighting for justice, and reclaiming my life. To my surprise, people connected with my story almost immediately. Comments poured in from strangers thanking me for sharing, telling me how much my words inspired them. It became clear that my story wasn't just about me, it was about giving hope to others who felt trapped in their own struggles. With the income one began earning from my platform and the continued success of the business, I started planning for a future filled with possibilities. I set up a foundation in my father's name to support victims of domestic violence, ensuring that his legacy would help others the way he had always helped me. Each day brought new challenges but also new victories. Whether it was meeting business goals, connecting with people online, or simply enjoying a peaceful moment in my new home, I felt immense gratitude for the life I was rebuilding. Looking back, I realized that everything I had endured, Victor's manipulation, the assault, the legal battle, had only made me stronger. I wasn't a woman who had silently endured his abuse anymore. I was a survivor, a fighter, and a leader. As I sat by the window of my new home, watching the sun set over the quiet neighborhood, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. My father's legacy was safe, and my life was my own again. I was no longer defined by the pain of my past but by the strength I had found to overcome it. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of my journey. If this story inspired you or resonated with you in any way, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback means the world to me, and and I'd love to hear your stories or experiences. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more inspiring stories, life lessons, and empowering content. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Together, let's build a community of strength, hope, and positivity. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.